And we had a different coach come up and give a motivational speech in the afternoon each day. He was our running backs coach at the time by the name of Derek Foster. Coach Foster came up there, toughness and pushing through. He got real razzed up as his speech progressed. We had a video coordinator named Rocky. He finishes his speech and he goes, "Hit it, Rock!" And Set It Off by Boosie Badass played. As a young white man, it was my first time hearing that song, Set It Off. Yeah, we finna set it off. You heard me? I'm finna put you in the trash bag. Tired of all these knowing me right now, for real. You wanna talk shit? You wanna run your mouth? You want some gangster strut your mother in the house? We'll set this job. Yeah. And that was my first time hearing Set It Off. At Samford University, it was the third or fourth week of camp. We were about where teams are right now. Right before the season, everybody's pissing and moaning. We had a different coach come up and give a motivational speech in the afternoon each day. He was our running backs coach at the time by the name of Derek Foster. Coach Foster came up there, toughness and pushing through. He got real razzed up as his speech progressed. We had a video coordinator named Rocky. Good afternoon, wherever you may be. Good morning. Good afternoon. Whatever the case is, guys, we are back for a new episode of In the Jar Football Podcast. The day after the national championship, and I already miss college football. Indiana with a perfect season, 16-0. First team to do that since Yale in 1894, I believe. And this wasn't a team that was expected to be good. This is the longest odds in Vegas for a team coming into the college season since 2001, I believe. Maybe longer. It's definitely been a long time since a team with 100-1 odds ends up running the table, not just winning it all, but going 16-0. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, I haven't liked it. I haven't enjoyed it. I'm somebody that enjoys seeing the SEC do well, as fans of this show know. And I found myself last night watching Indiana do this and thinking, you know, I've been kind of a hater. And they do have a really cool story. It's an underdog story. Nobody anticipated this kind of turnaround in program history, and I'm sure you guys have all heard that many times already. But, you know, I've been a bit of a hater with Indiana. I think it's hard for me to accept that the SEC is. I don't want to say it's over, but God, I can't even comprehend this. 3 years in a row, the Big Ten's won it. And of course, you're going to have your Big Ten homers calling in saying, how do you SEC fans feel about 3 national titles in a row? I don't feel good about it, man. Somebody come and save the SEC. Somebody that's worth something. Come in and save us, by God. I mean, hell. No conference has benefited from NIL more than the Big Ten. No conference. He had Cignetti bring over a lot of his JMU players. Look, you're going to see a lot of teams in college football start to try to copy this blueprint. You're going to see a lot of teams in college football, and you're going to see a lot of coaches in college football start to try. And, we got our first Chinese chatter in the building. Somebody with I can't even
can't even read that shit, man. I don't even know what that means. He's probably what does that mean? I can't even read his username. That's just a bunch of Chinese and then 22. And then he put like one. Oh, okay. He's telling me what he said now. Oh, what's up, man? Yo, yo. He's speaking. That's freaking crazy. I've never had somebody in China. I think it's Chinese. I don't mean it. I don't want to sound like racist or whatever. I can't tell them apart. But anyways, I think you're going to see a lot of teams in college football try and replicate what Indiana has done. I mean, there's no getting around it. It's probably the greatest story and the greatest finish in the history of the sport at this level. There's nothing around it. I mean, they're probably going to make a freaking movie about this stuff, if I had to guess, man. And I got to admit, it's kind of cool. I hate saying it's cool because I feel like Indiana fans particularly have had kind of a chip on their shoulder about the SEC, and I took that personally. And I thought that the end of the season was going to be vindicating for me as an SEC fan, and it's been just the opposite. A lot of seasons in sports seem to end that way. Whatever you want to happen, probably 6 out of 10 times, 7 out of 10 times, it's not going to be what's going to happen. And I was rooting for Miami. I love the U. I love the way they play. I love Mario Cristobal, but it was really hard down the stretch to not feel good about Indiana doing what they did. They had that kid, the white kid, number 80, the receiver for Indiana, made just a couple of huge, gutsy catches down the stretch. I think a pair of third downs, and Mendoza just threw it up to him. They were talking about how this kid, I can't even remember his name. They were talking about how this kid didn't get any targets first half of the year, and then they just started going to him. And in these huge moments, I'd argue the player of the game on offense, obviously you give it to Mendoza. But other than him, I think, and the play Mendoza made down the stretch was the ballsiest thing I've seen in a long time from a kid at the college level. That quarterback draw on that fourth down where they were going to kick. It was going to stay a one-possession game if they kicked it. And then Curt Cignetti wasn't sure, so he called a timeout and took some time to think about it. They run the offense out there. You see a draw from Mendoza the whole way. I saw it the whole way, and guys on the Miami defense saw it as well. You had a safety over to the nub side, close to the sideline on the right side of the field. If you're on offense looking out, there's a safety for Miami on the right side of the field, and there were two receivers to the boundary, and both of them were covered. And the safety to the right side was free. And he hesitated for a split second, trying to make sure, I guess, that no receiver was going to come open. And then he realized it was a draw. He broke on it. And Mendoza just made a play. And he sacrificed his body. He laid out. And for a second, you thought that Miami was going to bottle him up and force a turnover on downs. Not only did Mendoza get the first down, but we saw the rest of the way. Everybody who watched the game saw the rest of the play. Just ballsy, man. But number 80, I can't remember his name, but he was the same kid that after Indiana beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, he looked at the camera and was like, fuck Ohio State or something. and sometimes you see a kid do something like that and you kind of want to see him, get his or whatever. This kid did the opposite of that, man. He freaking made two gigantic plays, two contested catches. Look, there's something about a white receiver making plays that really gets me going. and number 80 for Indiana. I was rooting for Miami, like I said. I've been kind of a hater about Indiana, and I don't care how you feel about it, guys. It's a hell of a story. So for Indiana, if we're looking at way too early, listen. This happens to me. I don't know if this happens to you guys watching right now. Tell me in the chat if this happens to you guys. I'm sure it does, but when you're watching a championship game, whether it's college, and we're going to have this feeling coming up with the Super Bowl as well, there's kind of this melancholy feeling you get when the game's over. Like, it was about, I get really tired around about 10 p.m. And after the game was over, I sat around watching the post-game stuff, watching the trophy presentation. If I'm mad about the team that won, I'll turn off the trophy presentation. I won't watch. But for some reason, I wasn't that mad. And so I watched the trophy presentation, and the clock was ticking down to about 10 p.m. And I knew it was time for me to go to bed, but I just didn't want to turn off the TV. I was like, damn, why don't I want to turn off the TV? Because if I turn off the TV, then that means that the college football season is officially over until August. And that makes me really sad, man. It doesn't matter what happened that season. It doesn't matter if the Chiefs are the one that won the Super Bowl. Thankfully, we're not going to get that this year. I got a buddy on the Chiefs, and he knows who he is, and I love him to death, and I hope for his continued success. But other than that personal relationship, I don't want to see the Chiefs win it. I don't want to see the Eagles win it. That's the fan in me talking. But even if it's, a Chiefs Super Bowl victory or an Eagles Super Bowl victory, I get really nostalgic and sad when these championship games end. And I felt that last night. And so I thought we'd do a way too early kind of college football 2026 preview. We got Rob Keith in the chat. Alabama preseason 2026. Number one, based on their strength of loss to the national champion. He says, bad joke. No, that was a good joke. I fuck with that heavy. I said the F word 2 times this episode already. I told the powers that be, my employers, I would cut back on F-bombs on this show. So I've already said 2 F-bombs. You technically, at this point, could rate, if this was a movie, you could rate this podcast R, because I've said 2 F-bombs. I think that's the standard, right? If you say more than 1 F-bomb, it can't be PG-13 anymore. So way too early college football preview. You got the Indiana Hoosiers. Who's expected to leave? Mendoza, who's assumingly the number 1 overall pick. Their receiver, Elijah Surratt, their number 1 wide receiver, looks to be leaving. I don't know if he's entering the draft. I wouldn't be surprised. Pat Coogan, the center. Running back Roman Hemby, he's a great player. Defensive lineman, a linebacker, and a safety. Looks like Indiana is going to get Josh Hoover from TCU. That's a quarterback. Maybe through the transfer portal, that's going to be their number 1 guy. You're getting a receiver from Michigan State, Nick Marsh. A running back from Boston College, Turbo Richard. A D lineman, a safety, a corner, and a guard. The greatest turnaround in college football history culminated with Indiana winning the first national championship Monday night. Now the Hoosiers will have to replace Mendoza and several key players Coach Kurt Cinetti brought with him from James Madison. The Hoosiers signed 53 transfers over the past 2 seasons, and they're bringing in at least a dozen more this year. Hoover, who started 31 games for the Horned Frogs, that's a quarterback, could be a lead if he cuts down on turnovers, and talks about another couple additions. Look, here's what I'm seeing the last really less than 24 hours is Texas being really high up there. ESPN in their way too early college football rankings, has Texas at number 2 in America behind Indiana. And I think that's a big part because of how Arch Manning progressed throughout the end of the year. A lot of people thought that Texas should have made the playoff. I was one of those people as an SEC biased person. I'm not even sure if I really consider Texas SEC yet. I still think of them as a Big 12 team. I still think of Oklahoma as a Big 12 team. You know, when I'm streaming college football, and I haven't streamed that game in a long ass time, because let's talk about that. Let's talk about EA Sports college football video game for a second. Terrible. It's a terrible game. I think everybody was just happy and excited to have it back in 2025. I was one of those guys, and I kind of rolled with it and was like, this is badass that the college football video games are back. And nobody really complained, and it was a fun season of playing it, you know. But with 26, man, it's just terrible. It's not realistic. You got white players that are black. You got black players that are white. You know, they never updated the rosters. You can't play with Trinidad Chambliss if you're Ole Miss in the college football 26 game. And he ended up being one of the best quarterbacks in all of college football. Listen, Trinidad Chambliss, let's go on a detour here. Ole Miss would probably be a top 5 2026 preseason pick just because of Trinidad Chambliss, but he's having eligibility problems with the NCAA. They've hired a Mississippi attorney. I've seen the guy's name plenty of times, can't remember it. Something Mars. I think the lawyer's last name is Mars. They're like suing the NCAA, taking it to local courts, all this stuff. So there's still a chance that Trinidad Chambliss will be able to come back, but for the time being, we're all assuming that he's not going to be back at Ole Miss. And frankly, Trinidad Chambliss played well enough down the stretch this college football season that I would be willing, as a biased Ole Miss enjoyer, I would be willing to put my neck out for Trinidad Chambliss and say that he's the number 2 quarterback in this draft class behind Fernando Mendoza if the NCAA doesn't approve his asking to come back to Ole Miss next year. I would look. It goes one of two ways. I think if Trinidad goes pro, he's the second best quarterback in the draft. If he's approved to come back to Ole Miss is top 5 preseason team. That's how important he is to this team. But as it stands, you know, ESPN's got Texas at number 2, and I'm just like, they came on strong down the stretch. They found their rhythm with Arch as their quarterback. They very well could be a great team in 2026, but and they don't have that many people leaving. They make some key additions. They get a receiver from Auburn, Cam Coleman. I've heard about him a ton. That's probably a big reason why they're preseason number 2. A couple backs from NC State. Damn. Linebacker, corner, and a tackle. So it looks like Texas is going all in for 2020. They got Notre Dame up there. I mean, God. You guys, dude, this isn't talked about enough. Like, if I was on, this is probably why I'd love to be on the College Game Day panel someday. That's like a big, bad, hairy, audacious dream of mine that I'm sharing with you guys right now. I'd love to be on that panel one day. You guys saw Marcus Freeman up there, head coach of Notre Dame last night. You guys saw him sitting up there. I cringed every single time that they closed in because that guy's freaking hairline, that is the look. You guys have seen the Drewski skits. Everybody sees those skits. You guys see the Drewski skits where they're like spray painting his hairline on there. I call your hairdo your piece, by the way. People who are real OGs on the show have heard me talk about people's pieces before. When you have to get your piece, your hairline, painted on, and look, Drewski made fun of this. There's like the light-skinned, guys that really care about their appearance and their hairline's fading, so they like paint it on. I guess that's a thing that light-skinned dudes do or whatever. Like, dude, when they closed in on Marcus Freeman last night, I mean, it looked like a damn oil spill up there on the top of his forehead. It was brutal. Like, dude, if your hairline's receding like that, just shave your head. Ain't nobody gonna think less of you. They might respect you more, actually, if you just accept. Like, dude, that just tells me, Marcus Freeman, it's blatant at this point. Stop painting your damn hairline black, man. Looks like a damn BP site. Looks like a damn oil spill. Can you imagine if this guy worked up a sweat and the shit started dripping down your forehead like that? I would kind of hope for that. Look, guys, Notre Dame is gay. I don't know how else to put it. When you got a coach that paints his hairline on like that, I mean, he probably told ESPN, "Hey, guys, hey, don't close in on me. I got my hairline painted on. I want to look attractive. I want to be respected. I don't want people knowing that my hairline's receding. I don't want people to know that." It's damn obvious. So that's my rant about Marcus Freeman. Notre Dame, number 3 in America, according to ESPN's way too early. I just can't respect them, guys. I can't do it. They cry about not getting in the playoff. They're promised this playoff berth 3,000 years ago. Let's be real. Notre Dame is the Israel of college football, and I'm not going to say anything more than that. They're just annoying at this point, guys. Like, join a conference, number one. I've already talked about that. That clip got like 90,000 hits talking about Notre Dame won't join a conference, and they won't. I think the program made like $20 million in 2024 or something like that. NBC deal. I mean, Notre Dame just thinks they're better than everybody, and they haven't won a championship in how long? I mean, it's just played out. It's old. It's annoying. Like, stop with the Notre Dame shit. Indiana won a national title before you, and they were 3-9 2 years ago. So, and there's part of me too with Indiana that just part of being a sports fan, and this might be coming from a certain place because I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan, and I felt all this pain. I grew up on Kentucky football. That's not a painless existence. There's part of me with Indiana that's like, dude, like the rise was just so fast. Like, had they, I answer my own question. Yes, they have faced adversity. They've had a non-existent football program for almost all of time. I saw somebody on Twitter today making a take oh, Indiana fans have never suffered. Indiana fans just are good right away. That's not really how that went down. It's just years and years, decades and decades, century of nothing. If I had to make a pick in college football for 2026 national champion, if I had to make a bet today, and they've already released odds, by the way, McAfee was talking about it. A couple other programs were going over the preseason national title odds. That's another thing I can't wrap my head around. There's people today for sure that are putting in bets on the 2026-27 college football national champion. If you're putting any reasonable sum of money, like if it's $100, that still might be a lot to some people. Like that's not a small sum of money to me either. Like $100. Let's say you put down $1,000, you want to get a sizable return. If you had put $1,000 on the Indiana Hoosiers to win the national title preseason, you would have made $100,000 last night. I think. Yeah, $1,000 times 100,000. That's a year's salary. So let's say I wanted to get the best deal and I wanted to bet $1,000 on my pick for the eventual national champion in 2026-27. My money is tied up until that clock strikes zero on that national championship game next year. Think about having money tied up for that long. And it's not like you're buying a stock and you can watch your returns on it every day. No, that's just $1,000 paid to the sports book until January 25th, 2027. I just can't wrap my head around betting on champions. Like, the only upside really you get is you might get a good deal on odds. That's it. And you might get screwed on the odds. Something bad might happen, and you might be able to get a better deal. I can't wrap my head around. There are definitely people today who are betting on the 2026-27 college football national champion. Unless it's like $10 or $50, I don't know how you justify having even $100 tied up until a year and a week, really, from today. I don't understand it. But if I had to make a pick, I would take the Georgia Bulldogs to win it next year. They got to get over the hump, man. They've gotten a bye the last 2 years, and they lost both times in the quarterfinal of the college football playoff. Listen, I don't know. I don't want to be if man. I hate throwing around hypotheticals. Indiana is a national champion. I can't help but think if Georgia had beaten Ole Miss, if they had beaten the U in the semifinal, what that championship game would have looked like if it was Georgia and Indiana. Georgia is a really young team, and they don't have that many guys leaving. Zachariah Branch, the receiver, is leaving for the draft. They're losing a tackle. They're losing a linebacker, a defensive tackle, and a corner. But they're getting a receiver from Georgia Tech. That is cold-blooded to leave Georgia Tech and go to Georgia, by the way. They're getting a safety. They're getting a corner from Oklahoma, Gentry Williams. They're getting a defensive end from Auburn. And they're getting another safety from Clemson. They were the second youngest team in the SEC this past season. And they still managed to win the SEC, reach the college football playoff. And they're going to need young receivers to produce with a couple of their receivers. They got Branch leaving, Noah Thomas is leaving, Colby Young, Dylan Bell. They're all leaving, and the offensive line should be really good again. You got Oregon at number 5. I'd imagine that, and I'm reading ESPN's way too early rankings, by the way. That's what this is based on. But they've got Oregon at number 5, and I'd imagine the reason for that is that Dante Moore, after that absolute slop fest in the semifinal against Indiana, realized that he's not ready to come out in the draft, or scouts and execs might see him as not ready to come out in the draft. His draft stock might fall. Dude, the draft's coming around in April, and if Dante Moore, the quarterback of the Oregon Ducks, had entered the draft, and let's say Trinidad Chambliss' eligibility doesn't get approved, I think you take Trinidad over Dante Moore. Again, I'm an Ole Miss enjoyer. I'm biased, so take that with a grain of salt. But let's think about this for a second. Trinidad Chambliss' case with the NCAA is going to court. He's got lawyers involved. They're taking it to court. What happens if this case is nowhere near resolved before April, before the draft? What happens? Because if the case isn't resolved and the draft happens and Trinidad's holding out hope that they win the case and he gets to return to Ole Miss, what happens? Let's say the case goes beyond. Maybe they have guardrails in place. Maybe they have parameters in place. I'd love to get some college football insiders on the show in the next couple weeks, next couple months, to talk about that, because there's got to be some guardrail in place that makes sure the case gets resolved with enough time for Trinidad to enter the draft, do whatever he's got to do to be draft eligible. I don't know, man. That's really something to keep your eyes on, I think. There's no way that he would get screwed in that. Like, I can't imagine. Like, could there be a way that if the Trinidad Chambliss case isn't resolved by the time the draft goes down, that Trinidad could still be on an NFL team next season, assuming that his case gets dismissed and he can't go back to Ole Miss? Like, how does that all play out? I don't think enough people are talking about that. It would be interested to get some other college football insiders' opinions on there. Laura Bush 43 is in the chat. Hi there. I'm former First Lady Laura Bush. George is in the hospital and Secret Service left me all alone at the ranch. Can you Venmo me $35 so I can get a KFC family feast with a molten lava cake? Yeah, Laura, I got you, honey. Listen, I'll take care of you while George is in the slammer or whatever. I'll take care of Laura Bush. That's really, dude. Bravo to Laura Bush for hopping in the chat and saying what's up. We got a former First Lady in the chat on In the Jar Football Show. This is a monumental day. We got the Indiana Hoosiers making a national title run that's never been seen before, a story that's never been seen before. And the day after we come on air to try to unpack it, and First Lady Laura Bush is in the chat. She needs $35 to go get her a KFC family feast with a molten lava cake. I don't know how she's going to feed it to former President George W. I think is Laura Bush George W.'s mom? Or is that George W.'s wife? I think it's George W.'s wife. Dude, that might be the greatest chat of all time so far on the show. You got Ohio State coming back, man. Laura, I want to know if Laura watched the national championship game last night. Laura, did you watch it last night, honey? Maybe not, because, Georgie's up in the hospital. But, yeah, I could send you some bread, Miss Laura. That's no problem. I'm happy to do that for you guys. I'm staring at George Washington right now, one of your husband's predecessors. And, I can't help but think that the American thing to do would be to Venmo you that $35. Is that really how much a KFC family feast and molten lava cake costs these days? Can you, if George W. comes back in the hospital, could you get his take on why a family feast at KFC and a molten lava cake is now $35? I don't eat that kind of food anymore, so I'm really not up on the times on what a family feast costs. I used to, as a kid, I used to spend a lot of long days at the pool, and this was kind of back before people were health conscious and stuff. And my mama used to take me straight from the pool down to KFC, and I always really enjoyed the mashed taters with and I can't remember what they call it, but is basically mashed taters. They put some gravy on it, and they put some shredded cheese on it. And then this was really, they had corn in there too. And then they would throw the popcorn chicken in there as well. I can't remember what they called it, but I think they still have it. Like, it's one of the, to me, right, you got the biscuits and you throw the honey on the biscuits. That's a hallmark when you're eating KFC and food like that. But I can't remember what it's called, but it's mashed taters, gravy, corn, shredded cheese, and popcorn chicken all in one bowl. And you mix it up, and I mean, hell, it is fire. You know, it was really something else. But I never had dessert at KFC. I never ventured that deep into the KFC lore. Look, I'm from Kentucky. The first thing that happens when I meet somebody that's like European or whatever, I was down at the Grand Canyon last year. Just took a weekend and camped out up there. You know, it's about a 4-hour drive from where I sit. So I went and camped out at Grand Canyon. And I remember I had my campfire going. And I had eaten some magic fungi, let's just say. So my senses were heightened. And it was nighttime. And I had a fire going. And I didn't have any weapons on me. You know, I didn't have a crossbow or whatever. And so my senses are heightened. I don't have a weapon. I got a fire going and it's pitch black dark around me. And I'm kind of sitting around the fire thinking like, damn, you know, if somebody had bad intentions and wanted to pull up on me and see what I had in my backpack, you know, I wouldn't be able to do much except throw hands or grapple or whatever. And sure enough, I saw some headlights pulling up on me, and I was like, oh, frick. You know, I've already said F-bomb twice on the episode. I said, frick. And they stopped. They parked the car right next to my campsite, and I see this guy walking up, and I'm like, oh. He looks cool. You know, I start to see him because of fire or whatever. And he was an Australian guy, and he was like, you mind if we saddle up here for the night, mate? And I was like, yeah, what's up? You know, you guys protect me. You guys take care of me. Oh yeah, mate. And we sit around the fire. We get to talking, and he asked me, he said, "Where you from, mate?" And I said, "Well, I'm from Kentucky." And the first thing, this is always what people from other countries ask me when they ask me where I'm from, and I say Kentucky. He said, "Oh, so you fancy some Kentucky Fried Chicken then, mate?" I was like, it's not what you think. That's the only thing that people from other countries know about Kentucky is KFC, and I haven't eaten there in decades. I don't think I've eaten at KFC since, you know, I was 6 years old, spending entire days in the pool. And my mama would take me down there after. You guys know, like, you're a kid and you spend a whole day swimming. You know, you come out of that pool and you about ready to eat an elephant, dude. You know, you about ready to eat the toes off of your granny. You know what I mean? And so I would get that KFC. I can't remember what it's called, but they had a name for it. It's mashed taters, gravy, shredded cheese, corn, and popcorn chicken. And I would just eat that thing and it would disappear. Okay, Ohio State, you got Julian Sayin coming back, quarterback. I mean, Texas and Ohio State seem to be the picks by a lot of media members for the coming college football season. And they seem to be the picks for the upcoming college football season as well. You know, you got Julian Sayin. Julian Sayin played somewhere else. It's really hard in this new era of football for, like, you know, let's say Sayin, he played somewhere where I was like, dang, really? Let's see. Julian Sayin. Julian, I'm just saying. Where did he? So he's from San Diego, it looks like. Oh, Bama. That's where he played. He played at Bama, or practiced at Bama. People always ask me, like, you played college football? And I was like, yeah, I practiced college football, you know. Because, look, let's be real. Like, you know, if Julian Sayin went to the NFL and ended up being like some, you know, god level quarterback, and Alabama fans wanted to claim him, like that's kind of lame. Like you see that with Joe Burrow a lot. That's the experience I have, because Joe Burrow's my quarterback. You know, that's my quarterback for the Cincinnati Bengals. And you see Ohio State fans a lot of time like trying to claim him. And it don't work that way, guys. It don't, because he didn't play there. He practiced there. Texas Tech at number 7, best team that money can buy. I just can't. I can't buy that. I can't ever buy Texas Tech being a program that could compete with the top level college football programs of today's age. But I said that about Indiana literally leading up to this game this year. I didn't think they could beat Alabama. They whooped the shit out of them. I didn't think that Oregon would be able to, or I didn't think that they'd be able to beat Oregon twice, and look what they did to them. So I'm gonna do my best to make good takes and realize that there are certain times where I'm gonna be wrong. And a lot of these folks that do what I do at a larger scale are very wrong a lot of the time, and that's what makes me comfortable with making takes and potentially being wrong. Miami at number 8, Ole Miss at number 9. Like I said, I think if Trinidad gets approved to come back, Ole Miss is a top 5 team in college football. I think we would be pretty dumb. Say what you want about him to write off Lane Kiffin at LSU this coming football season. Where are they at? And ESPN's way too early. Are they even in the top 25? They gotta be. LSU, where are they at? LSU is not in ESPN's way too early top 25. That's interesting. I don't know if I agree with that. I would put LSU in there. They got Clemson to open the season in Baton Rouge, and they don't open the year in Baton Rouge that often. What's up, Zakiah? What's going on, Zakiah? Yeah, I didn't mess up my knee. I got a little stinger last night in jiu-jitsu, and class is slated to start in 10 minutes. I'm going to go down there and watch, but I got a competition on February 7th, and I'm going to take care of my body to the best of my ability, and I don't feel like training tonight or training hard tonight would be beneficial for me, so I'm comfortable being a couple ticks late. That's the only reason we're still on the air here. But let me think. I mean, we've been going for 42, 43 minutes. Favorite NFL team. This is KTK88. And by the way, guys, if you're new here, welcome to the show. This is In the Jar Football Podcast. In the Jar is a phrase that my college head coach used to use when somebody was like flared up or mad. And so the whole vibe around this show is we're looking to rant. We're looking to get involved. We're looking to get in the jar about football happenings that are going on. And so, you know, if you guys are new to the show, you'll start to learn a lot of the different things that we like to rant about and biases that we have. But above all else, hit the subscribe button. You won't regret it in any capacity. And that's my pitch. Thanks for saying good luck. Alex Chapman says, sorry I'm mad, late to the show. Have you talked about the McDermott firing? Yeah, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. I mean, it must be nice. You know, I'm a Bengals fan. So what I'm about to say is coming from that place. It must be nice to have an organization that actually holds their head coach to high expectations. I think McDermott got scapegoated. I think he got completely scapegoated. A lot of people are saying that Bean, the GM, was at fault for the pieces around Josh Allen maybe not being up to par. But Bean, I can't remember if his name is Brandon Bean or Billy Bean, but we'll just call him Bean with an E at the end. Bean got a promotion from the Buffalo Bills. He's not only now the GM, he's also now the president of all football operations. So they fire McDermott, who a lot of people thought was scapegoated, and they give a promotion to the GM, who a lot of people thought was the main reason for the Buffalo Bills' shortcomings. So that's very interesting. But again, look, you got the entire AFC North, except for the Bengals, vacant of head coaching roles. And I'd be hard-pressed to find any other team in the NFL that has underachieved in the last 3 seasons more than Cincinnati. And somehow Zach Taylor still has his job. I mean, what a job to have where you know you're not going to get fired. You know you can underperform in a cutthroat profession like coaching in the NFL. What a job. It's like being a backup quarterback. You got no pressure, unless the guy in front of you gets hurt and you got to step up. That's where we stumble upon Jarrett Stidham, who's going to be playing in the AFC Championship this week for the Denver Broncos. So, yeah, I mean, the McDermott firing, it must be nice. Must be nice to have an organization, if you're a fan of the Bills, that holds their coach to a high standard. Guys, make sure you subscribe to the channel for me. I want to really blow this show up this year. We're here every day, Monday through Friday, around 6 p.m. Eastern. We're a little late today. We're here every single day, guys. We're consistent. You're not going to find a channel that's more consistent than ours. You're not going to find a channel that's growing faster talking about football than ours. We anticipate to have more guests on as the weeks and months go by. This has largely been a solo program. I'm happy that I'm able to carry a solo show, but I realize that there are ways that the show can get better. Part of that is on you guys to subscribe so that we can start getting some revenue from this thing, and so that I can hire producers to throw cool stuff on screen as we're talking about it. KT asks, who do I have winning the Super Bowl? I've got the New England Patriots. My pick might change as the days go on. We still got a lot of time until the Super Bowl. So, again, make sure you subscribe. We're here every single day, and we'll be covering these things as they develop. But the college football season is officially over, and I'm very sad about it. I plan on pivoting this to a college football first show. But the more NFL things that go on, there's a lot of hot NFL stories going on right now, as you guys know, and it's really hard to not talk about those because I do love the NFL. But in regards to people that talk like me, people that are from where I'm from, it's clear that the audience that I probably resonate with more is like SEC folks. So we'll continue to try to talk about this. I'm going to try to get on the Paul Feinbaum show as well and start trying to call into that. Just because I feel like, we got a whole fan base that is watching that show that could be watching this one. So go ahead and subscribe for me. We really hope you've enjoyed the program. I'm going to head on out, guys. It's time for me to go watch some jiu-jitsu. I've got a competition coming up, like I said, my first competition. And only reason we stayed on longer tonight is because my knee's hurting. So I'm just going to go watch tonight. But I love you guys. We got UFC 324 coming up this Saturday. My good friend Sugar Sean O'Malley is fighting Song Yadong in the co-main event in Las Vegas. And I'm debating on whether we're going to go out to Las Vegas or not to see Sugar Shane and all the boys. His coach, Tim Welch, he and I do a podcast together. It's the Confidential Show. That's on Patreon. That's a Patreon podcast. You got to pay $5 a month to listen to it. But I'm on that show every week with Tim Welch. And we got a big fight coming up. So we might be talking about some UFC. As my buddy Sean has probably the biggest fight of his life coming up this Saturday against Song Yadong. Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it so much. Again, guys, you might think you're subscribed and you're not. So go ahead and check on that for me. Hit that subscribe button. And I got this audio file, dude. It just cuts out. Kind of interesting vibe that it brings when it cuts off and I'm not done talking. All right, guys. I'm going to head out. I'm going to go to the gym and just watch like I would have a chair in the corner of a hotel room. You know what I mean? Jokes. All right. Love you guys. I'm head down.